All right, hey Jess, here with your aims, just read, and I'm going to give you some feedback as if you were my PhD student and you were, going to submit this to some funding agency and try to have them give you, a lot of money to do this project. And the goal of this feedback is just to make your proposal as strong as possible so that you get this, pretend money. I like the idea, the area of anorexia a lot. And I like your train of thought in terms of beauty perception and, what's going on there. And let's just think for a minute. People with anorexia have their perception of their own body is messed up, right? Somehow, like their self-image or whatever you call it, like their perception of their own body, they view it as not beautiful or whatever, right? Because it's too fat and it has to be skinnier, like always. And so that's weird. That's messed up. That's not how someone without anorexia, views their body. So, why is that? What's going on in the brain of someone with anorexia? Why do they view their body that way? Is a fascinating scientific question. So it's great that you're there. That's the question that you're hovering near. And there are many ways to try to address that question, and you're sort of proposing one of them. So one I don't know if this is what you were thinking, but one thing could be, well, maybe their perception of beauty is just messed up in general. So they view themselves as less beautiful, but they view everything as less beautiful. Like, that's one question you raise here, which you didn't articulate, but you could make one of your aims is, what about just rating the beauty of other women? Not themselves, but rating the attractiveness of other women. Are they just hard to please? Like they don't think anyone's attractive? They think everyone's too fat? Or is it just when they apply it to themselves, when they view themselves, they feel that way? I don't know if that is already known. It might be already known or not. But that would be something you could investigate potentially if you look around a little bit and you don't find anyone who's already done that. That would be something you could look at and see if people with anorexia view all women as not beautiful, as fat, kind of regardless of how they actually look, or are they more, at least more fair or more generous with how they view other women than themselves? And it's really just when it comes to themselves that the perception is messed up. I don't know, and that's a really interesting question, I think. And then you have sort of your first aim here where, well, what about art in general? What about beauty in general? Looking at a landscape, do they view that as less beautiful? Well, that's also very interesting. And then your second aim seems to be, okay, we're going to manipulate the art images and then see if that has less of an effect on people with anorexia than healthy controls. That's also interesting. So that's fine. I would probably drop aim 3 and just slap that hypothesis under aim 1. So, you can say aim 1 is to see if art perception is messed up. I hypothesize blah, 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 that it is. You could add a hypothesis there under that same aim and say, I also hypothesize that it's going to be related to their symptoms or their body percept or something, or their self-image symptoms. That way you don't have to have a whole separate aim. You can just kind of get that idea under aim 1 because it's very related to aim 1. And then aim 2 is I'm going to mess with the art and see what that does to them. So that's cool. You could add in an aim 3, which is perception of beauty in other women, or men for that matter, other people, and see if that's also messed up, because I've never seen that. But that was my idea that I came up with. I don't know if that makes sense to you or if you like that. You don't have to include that if you don't want it. But that's sort of my general feedback where I would probably go if I were you. A couple specific things. I don't quite understand your reference system. Usually you order the references by the order they're cited in the paper. So the first one you cite is number 5, Esposito. But that should really be at the top of your reference system. That should be reference number 1. And there were a bunch of places in I think maybe 3 or 4 that I noticed that you seem to have just made things up. Where, like for example, first paragraph. After 2 sentences after that 5 citation, you say art appreciation and perception in anorexic individuals is an area that is still being widely researched, and a lot of the results have come back inconclusive. Do tell. What studies are you referring to when you say that? It seems like you just made up that statement. Because you don't have any references. If you have references, you can slap them in there. If you don't have any references, don't say it that way. Just say, it would be interesting to look at, but to my knowledge, this has not been looked at yet. Okay, that's fine to say. But you can't say, well, studies have come back inconclusive if you're not actually referring to any studies. Last sentence, these differences in perception may be due to higher hemispheric activation in the brain. What are you talking about? Visual spatial abnormalities or other structural differences in the brain. I mean, yeah, okay. It's got something to do with the brain, sure. Everything we do has something to do with the brain. I would try to make it more along the lines of what I was talking about at the beginning of this video of like, why do people with anorexia have messed up beauty perception? Is it about beauty in general? Is it about their own? Is it all limited to their own beauty? Is it the beauty of human beings? But it wouldn't apply to beauty in landscapes. You know, like that would be the sort of question to ask there. It doesn't. You don't have to mention the brain at all unless you think it helps. Where you use the term the latter in the middle of the next paragraph, it's unclear what you are referring to there. The sentence before, you sort of listed 3 possibilities, and the latter may be due to certain parts of the brain, blah, blah, blah. The connection between those 2 sentences, the thing you're referring to in the prior sentence didn't seem like it could be referred to as the latter, and I didn't quite follow you, so I would rephrase that, try to make it clearer. You say they're gonna, in the last sentence before you get into your aims, I hypothesize that individuals with anorexia will have a weakened sense of beauty and rank art images on a lower scale than healthy individuals. Well, if you use the word rank, it seems like you're saying like, oh, I think this one's the most beautiful, that one's the next most beautiful. So they're gonna rank one as the most beautiful, you know, like maybe you just mean rate. I would change to the word rate. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how beautiful is this? You know, people with anorexia are going to say it's a 4. People without are going to say it's a 6. Then that would make sense. But if it's ranking it, it wouldn't make sense. There couldn't be a difference because they'd still have a number 1. They'd still have a number last, just like healthy controls. First sentence in your second aim, individuals with anorexia often experience blah, blah, blah. That is also a made-up sentence, from what I can tell. You need a reference there. You're going to say something like that. It would be cool if you had a more specific hypothesis in that second aim. Therefore, I hypothesize that when art images are visually manipulated, individuals with anorexia will show less visual perception of the changes occurring. I imagine you're thinking something like that art paper I showed you guys in lab that Chen and I did with schizophrenia patients. Do you have any specific hypotheses there of which particular manipulations would be less noticed by those with anorexia? Is it making it black and white? Is it blurring it? Is it doing a high pass filter? Adding visual noise to the image? Those are the things we did. Are any one of those in particular going to be less noticed, or you think they'll all be less noticed? Just curious if you have any particular predictions there. All right, that's all the feedback I have. I think that's probably plenty for you to run with. So yeah, just do your best there. One of the main things is when you say things, you know, make sure they're backed up by science. If you're talking about the deal with people with anorexia, well, you need to point me to a study. And then, yeah, it's kind of the aims, shifting your aims, as I suggested at the beginning of the video, could be helpful, make it a little more cohesive. Yeah, but that's all I got for you for now. So good area, keep up the good work, and let me know if you want to talk about it more.